Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Marco Rubio locks horns with Margaret Brennan and defends his case on Face the Nation for the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil. Let's dive in.
I want to ask you about a decision you made to revoke a student visa for someone at Columbia University this past week. The Wall Street Journal editorial board writes, the administration needs to be careful. It's targeting real promoters of terrorism, not breaking the great promise of a green card by deporting anyone with controversial political views. Can you substantiate any form of material support for terrorism, specifically to Hamas, from this Columbia student? Or was it simply that he was espousing a controversial political point of view?
Well, not just the student. We're going to do more. In fact, every day now we're approving visa revocations, and if that visa led to a green card, the green card process as well. And here's why. It's very simple. When you apply to enter the United States and you get a visa, you are a guest. And you're coming as a student, you're coming as a tourist, or what have you. And in it, you have to make certain assertions. And if you tell us when you apply for a visa, I'm coming to the U.S. to participate in pro-Hamas events, that runs counter to the foreign policy interest of the United States of America. It's that simple. So you lied. You came. If you had told us that you were going to do that, we never would have given you the visa. Now you're here. Now you do it. So you lied to us. You're out. It's that simple.
But
it's
is there any evidence of a link to terrorism, or is it just his point of view?
Yeah, they take over. I mean, you should watch the news. These guys take over entire buildings.
They
vandalize colleges.
Intensely.
They shut down colleges.
I'm asking about the specific justification for the revocation of his visa. Was there any evidence of material support for terrorism?
Was the negotiator negotiating on behalf of people that took over a campus, that vandalized buildings? Negotiating over what? That's a crime in and of itself, that they're involved in being the negotiator, the spokesperson, this, that, the other. We don't want it. We don't need these people in our country. We never should have allowed them in the first place. If he had told us, I'm going over there, and I'm going over there to become the spokesperson and one of the leaders of a movement that's going to turn one of your allegedly elite colleges upside down, people can't even go to school, library buildings being vandalized, we never would have let him in. We never would have let him in to begin with. And now that he's doing it and he's here, he's going to leave, and so are others, and we're going to keep doing it. And by the way, I find it ironic that a lot of these people out there defending the First Amendment alleged free speech rights of these Hamas sympathizers, they had no problem, pressuring social media to censor American political speech. So I think it's ironic and hypocritical. But the bottom line is this. If you are in this country to promote Hamas, to promote terrorist organizations, to participate in vandalism, to participate in acts of rebellion and riots on campus, we never would have let you in if we had known that. And now that we know it,
is it only
you're going to leave.
pro-Palestinian people who are going to have their visas revoked, or are other points of view as well?
No, I think anybody who's here in favor. Look, we want to get rid of Tren de Agua gang members. They're terrorists too. The president designated them, asked me to designate, and I did, as a terrorist organization. We want to get rid of them as well. We don't want terrorists in America. I don't know how hard that is to understand. We don't want people in our country that are going to be committing crimes and undermining our national security or the public safety. It's that simple. Especially people that are here as guests. That is what a visa is. I don't know where we've gotten it in our head that a visa is some sort of birthright. It is not. It is a visitor into our country. And if you violate the terms of your visitation, you are going to leave.
Folks, I think we're seeing a bit of history in the making here. This might wind up all the way in front of the Supreme Court, and I'd kind of be happy if it does, because with someone who has a modicum of understanding of a legal background, I am technically a licensed paralegal. I'm just really bad at it, so that's why I'm doing this. But I really love constitutional law. And what it seems is that Mahmoud Khalil might have a leg to stand on. He might actually have a leg to stand on, because currently the accepted legal theory is he would have had to commit a crime in order for the State Department to consider revoking his visa and deporting him, because he also has a green card. However, Marco Rubio is also making there's a couple of points to be made here. One of his main ones is the fact that this dude is not an American citizen. He's not an American citizen. The dude has a green card. The dude has a visa. He is not protected by the First or Fifth Amendments. Now, there are some naysayers who will say, well, the Constitution, by definition, does pertain to certain people who have these qualifications. However, I disagree with that 100%. I don't think there's legal precedent. And so what Marco Rubio is doing, he's quoting, well, not in this video, but I think the argument's going to come down to the immigrant. Let's see, let me pull this up here. Yes, the Immigration and Nationality Act. This was this was back in 1952, and essentially the whole point of it was to make sure that people who have had families that are people who have been in the United States can come in and be naturalized citizens through an easier process. But it also had provisions to make sure that we weren't importing any communists. Okay, and the pro-Palestinian people, they're not communists, but they are, by definition, undermining of American foreign policy. They went in and completely tore up Columbia University. Although, let's be honest, they might have improved the place with how bad their educational system has gotten. And so, with the case of Mahmoud Khalil, a 30-year-old activist, a 30-year-old student. Listen, I've known some students who are a little bit older, and there's nothing wrong with that, but a 30-year-old student who's married with a kid on the way, something doesn't add up there. I'm going to be honest. And then what he has said to some of the other members of the Columbia University board, he has been vicious in his negotiations, by the way, and he claims that he's a negotiator on behalf of these activists, when the reality is he's negotiating for literal terrorists. Okay? There's no easy way about it. And something that I was bringing up earlier, neither Rubio nor the White House have provided evidence that Khalil supported Hamas in any way other than support for the protesters at Columbia University. And Khalil's lawyers say he's being punished for exercising his right to protest. Khalil's attorneys have filed a motion to dismiss the case and declare that his arrest and detention violate the First Amendment and the Due Process Clause of the Fifth Amendment. So, yeah, I've brought this up already, but the reality is he doesn't have a First Amendment right. He's not an American citizen. And the right to due process, you're going to have to make some fancy arguments that he's going to be allowed to have those. Now, I can understand due process a little bit more as he is protected by certain laws and regulations, and he has to have committed a crime. However, you can make a couple of points here. So Rubio can be making the case that, one, he was undermining American foreign policy, which by definition he was. What is this consequential? Absolutely not. Let's be honest, protests like this achieve nothing but basic vandalism and kind of shows where your actual support lies and where your values lie. So it's a terrible form of the freedom of speech. And let's be honest, the protests might have worked back in the 60s. They don't work anymore. They don't work like they used to. They're going to have to change their tactics here pretty soon. And so you can make an argument that, yes, by definition, he was undermining the foreign policy of the United States. And because of that, he can be deported. So there is legal precedent for this. So the problem is this is going to be a tit for tat, back and forth. This is probably going to get appealed multiple times. This is going to end up in front of the Supreme Court. At least that's my prediction here. Because there are so many different appeals cases, there's so many different ways to go in and make sure that this person is indeed having their rights treated correctly under the Constitution. So if Trump and Rubio end up losing this and the Supreme Court or lower court ends up saying that no, this dude's rights are being violated, well then we know where the line is, we know where the precedent is, and this is going to stop. Okay? Now, Rubio wants to continue pushing this in a larger manner. For instance, that's why he brought up Tren de Agua, and he wants to remove violent criminals who have green cards or visas that are here in the United States. Again, a more than admirable goal. Americans deserve safety, and this is one of the ways we can achieve that from the federal perspective. And so, ultimately, I don't like the fact that Mahmoud Khalil has been out there supporting terrorists and supporting the Palestinian movement. I'm going to be honest, I'm not too sympathetic to that. But there is a question of legality. So, what I hope ends up happening is that Trump and Rubio are 100% correct, and yes, they can take away his green card and his visa and can deport him under the rule of law. That's what I hope ends up happening, but I want the Constitution and the rule of law to remain paramount. I want that to remain as sort of the goal of what we are as a society. Because if we don't have these laws in place, if they're not locked in, and if they're flaunted constantly, then there's no point in having the rule of law to begin with. Then there would be no point in our Constitution, and I fear a world without that. Our Constitution is an amazing document, and I am going to be very interested in seeing where this case goes. I think that Rubio and Trump are right to do so, but we're going to see how this plays out in the courts. And Rubio did a fantastic job defending this here without giving away any of the legal argument, whereas Margaret Brennan, all she can kind of just sit there and do is kind of sit there and just complain. I mean, that's pretty much all she can do at this point. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.